Welcome to the Activate and Illuminate podcast with Mel. I'm your host, Mel, and together we'll be chatting with everyday people living extraordinary lives. So they've learned how to activate their potential and are helping to illuminate others. So I hope you will join me in listening to their journey. And if you like what you hear, and I think you will, I'd love for you to like, subscribe, and share it with your friends and family. The world could use a lot more activation and illumination. Have a great day. You are going to hear today about a great little fireball of energy that can honestly help you with your energy. Her name's Lindsay Doyle. She is a certified Feng Shui consultant with an intuitive side and a little knack of her own that puts her own spin on helping you with your space. So she will help you clean out the closets of your mind and your personal space. She's passionate about helping moms and busy women to nurture themselves, their spaces, and in turn their families. So learn how everything in our space is a reflection of our emotions, how clearing this up can not only create more time, but more love and more abundance in our life. So tune in. You're going to want to listen to Lindsay Doyle. Hello.
Hello.
Well, today I have the honor of talking to Lindsay Doyle. And Lindsay and I have been connected for the last few years. I got to meet Lindsay through some activators.
That's right.
Is what this podcast is all about, some activators, and we connected, and then I learned a little bit about what she did, and I was fascinated with the process. And I have to tell you that I have the best testimonial for Lindsay ever. But Lindsay, you are like a Feng Shui, let's call you a Feng Shui expert, Feng Shui gal, whatever you want to call yourself. But tell us a little bit. I've been sitting here thinking about Feng Shui and how to introduce to you. And I guess the question I have is, what does Feng Shui mean? And tell us the best way that you would describe yourself and a little bit about how you got to where you're doing what you are.
Cool. Thank you. Well, we did. When you say activation just fits so nicely with Feng Shui, because when I think of the word activation, I think of energy. And that's exactly what Feng Shui is. It's working with the energy, Qi flow, which is life force energy, and it encompasses and is in everything. And so Feng Shui, it's a Chinese practice. It goes back thousands, like 3,000 years ago. And it's basically the practice of focusing on people and their environment. And Feng Shui represents and translates to wind and water. So the Feng represents wind and the Shui represents water. And so it's basically the working between the seen and the unseen world and bringing them into harmony in all aspects of our life. And so I love being asked where it started for me. And because I always say, I actually became really enamored, I guess, with my environment at the age of 8. And it all makes sense now. But looking back, I loved working with my environment, which started at the time at 8 years old, which was my bedroom. And I remember making it my sanctuary and my sacred space. And so for me, it was just whether it be like decorating it or just making it my own. It was like my safe place, regardless of what was going on the outside, whatever chaos was going on the outside. I had control and intention with my own internal space. That's what I had kind of control over. And so, yeah, I really recognize the significance of it now, what it meant. And I feel like I was the oldest of 3 girls. And so I grew up, I'd say, with more responsibility because there was quite a bit of an age gap. And so whether it be my room or like our our family home, I just found a lot of peace and harmony with working with our environment, whether it was my bedroom or our family home. And then looking back to, it's like the jobs that I ended up having as well kind of helped me build that expertise. And so that even looked like working at a clothing shop with like folding clothes. I at one point did insurance restoration. And so I was in lots of different homes and managing people's belongings. And so, yeah, it's really interesting looking back because it all kind of feeds into like everything. It accumulated into like everything that I'm doing now. And then Feng Shui kind of like fell into my lap, I want to say 6 years ago. But even before that, I started my business, Reclaim Your Space, with just like cleaning and organizing, because it went back to that original, like what I love to do and what I was like gifted at. And it brought me back to that time when I was like young. It's like really, I found peace and joy in cultivating my environment. And so it was one weekend, actually, I went to a workshop, and it was basically like get paid for what you're passionate about and what your gifts are. And so that weekend, it basically birthed the idea of starting a business. And then I did another kind of workshop, and Reclaim Your Space was born. And so I just started part-time with that. And then it eventually evolved. I quit my corporate job and started my business kind of full time. And then a few years later, I found Feng Shui, or it found me. And now today it's primarily Feng Shui and working with like energy alignment. So that's kind of like a bit of the history of where it all kind of started for me, but it's been a fun journey, and I feel like it's been very purposeful. I really feel like I'm in my purpose, and that my mission is, like, when you talk about activation, it's like reminding people of like their source, their energy source, and like how to activate them, and overall, like, I guess, like wellness and like well-being and harmony, and bringing people into alignment. So
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that firsthand. So I met Lindsay. It was through a line of cellular activators that I participate in. And Lindsay, we when we first met, you know how when you're connected to people and when you meet them, you just instantly know firsthand. And I feel like we were meeting under this pretense of this, but we had such an in-depth conversation. It was such a soul connection right from the start. And I thought I was going to do your Feng Shui, I thought, oh, we'll have a Feng Shui consult and you can come to my house and there won't be much involved.
surprise.
Surprise. It ended up being like a year-long process.
Yeah. And not all consultations are like that either.
Yeah.
It's like basically whatever. Each consultation is its like own identity, its own entity. And so it's just like wherever the client or, whoever I'm working with at the time, it's like the house speaks to me, and we get into like engagement and conversation about like goals and stuff like that. And so I bring that into the space basically. And so that's kind of the experience that we had. That's kind of what it revealed. So
I felt like I had big goals.
Yeah.
I had some big goals, and we had
Yeah.
some big things to accomplish.
Absolutely.
So what you just said something there that just stood out to me. The house speaks to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen this in action with you, and I know that it really does speak to you. Tell us how you feel, because I actually feel like it's not just Feng Shui, it's not just, energy, it's not just, tell us why you may be different than just a regular, or I don't want to even say regular, but, than just someone that's organizing. Tell us what happens when you say the house speaks to you. What happens?
Well, I guess my grounding around it is, I everything's kind of, I take pieces of and fragments of things. So it's like, I think just naturally I was like born with a specific mission or a specific gift. And I believe we all are. And so I was really fortunate. And I'm really grateful for the path that I've been on, because it's really aligned me and with, I guess, like discerning. And so when I think of like even the practice of Feng Shui, it's like there's components of Feng Shui that I implement, but then there's also like my own experiences, my own knowledge, my own intuition that I also incorporate into my practice. And so I would say for myself and like my own evolution, I really see everything, like everything's interconnected, right? And so it's just like I got really good at pinpointing and like feeling and reading the energy. And so I now bring that into my practice. And so when you talk about like the house speaks to you, there's three well, Feng Shui teaches us like three essential principles. One, everything is alive. So that's like objects, colors, spaces. That's the first one, is everything is alive. Second, everything is interconnected. So your home is an extension of you. And then the third is everything is constantly changing. And so when you take, those principles, and that's just like one set of principles, and you bring it into the practice, it just becomes like more clear. And I use that as a foundation, because energy is like, it's chi energy, it's life force energy. So when you're working with those three concepts, it's just, you can't, well, I guess in my case, everyone thinks I'm a little crazy, but yeah, I don't know. I just can turn it on, and it's like this intuition, like it's a download. And so that's kind of my practice. And plus, like, I really appreciate, and I like the practical side of things too. And I think that's like something that's like lost. And so it's just really getting back to basics is another one of my foundation. One of my principles is like just getting back to basics, and everything with Feng Shui and life force energy, it goes back to nature, and nature cycles, right? And so that's how I kind of like connect everything, is with those principles as the foundation. So I hope that answered your question.
So from there, when you talk about that, like I've experienced, I'm going to get real personal here with you, because
yeah, let's do it.
We were in this process for quite a while, and like we did a repaint of certain things. We completely cleared, completely shifted what my house felt like.
Yeah.
I remember my husband walking in from work one time, and he said, "I can breathe now." And it was getting rid of our old couch set. He's like, "I can breathe now." And but I've experienced this. I am going to get personal. Do you remember when we were in the middle of reorganizing my closet? And she looks at me and she says, "Mel, you're going to have great sex tonight." And I was like, "Oh yeah, whatever." But lo and behold, it just like, everything shifted. And I remember in that moment thinking, Lindsay was right. And so do you actually feel like when you go in and you're changing up spaces, and I'm not saying this is not like, Lindsay's going to magically make you have great sex in your life if you're not, but it is, I remember in that moment thinking, oh, something shifted today. Something got cleared, something. And do
you want me to go take this on?
Yeah, please. I'm stammering a little.
Yeah, no, that's all good. Yeah, so we've had some great experiences and like movement in your space, and I would just say, like, getting to know you too, just like on a personal level. It's also, I've seen like an impact on you, like on the external. And that's how it works, right? Like it's a harmony and alignment with the internal and external worlds. And so I love this story. This is one of my favorite stories. And so I've gotten also really to know you guys as well, right? And so it's like a puzzle. Like I see it as like a game and like a little bit of a puzzle, but just like from the basics. So closets represent like the subconscious mind, right? And also so your closets, based on where your closets are, they're right at the entrance of your home. And so closets, based on like their placement where they are, it's like first impression, right? But they also represent opportunity. And so, that's what's going on in my mind. And then you also have to consider in this circumstance, it's like your husband coming home every day, and it's like this weight. He comes home and like it's just a weight because everything holds energy, right? And so every item holds energy. And so it's items also, they hold, but I can't think of the word right now. Anyways, I'll go back to it. But so in this instance, it's like, and there was some avoidance for a while of you getting deeper into those nooks and crannies. And sometimes those are like can create the most impact. And so like your husband coming home. So if you think about it, like your husband, the masculine's out of the house, he's providing and supporting, and it's like consistent. And then all of a sudden he comes home one day and he walks through and it's like this breath of fresh air, right? It's like this weight is released and it's like dissipated because the energy was shifted and it moved and everything is like cleaned and intentional and put in place, right? And so it's like, I think, so that repetition of like that heaviness per se, like coming home from like a hard day at work, it's like, oh my gosh, it was just like this release. And so I remember as like I'm going through the closets and like I'm like, oh yeah, this is happening tonight. Someone's gonna get late. So I was like, I could already sense it and feel it because there's different components of it, right? Like, and so I don't know, that's just how my brain works. Like I can fragment and piece all these things together. And then you end up having like this experience because it's also like working with intention as well, right? So, and the same with the couch, because it was like at that time, that was right at the beginning of us working together. It was like, I'm feeling disconnection, like, with family. And so you look at the space and it's like everything is singular. Everything is singular. So everything has meaning. And so I was able to take that. We had, a very in-depth conversation where it was like introspective, and based on like what you shared with me, it was a depiction of what was showing up in your environment. And so that was like the first step for me. And so I could pinpoint what needed to be addressed. And so some like colors, the furniture. So we started shifting all of that. And what was the result?
Yeah.
Changes, right? Changes within the family and with business. And it's also important, like when I meet with clients, it's like I meet them where they're at, because this is like, it could be an overhaul and some people aren't ready. And so it's just like, it's fragmented. It's like just piece by piece. It's like 1 degree shifts at a time, right? But when you work at a space or like anything in general, if you start just like cutting it up, like, and addressing it like 1 degree at a time, it starts opening up, the energy starts opening up for more to come in. And that's, I feel like, an approach that everyone should take on all things. It's like, how do you eat an elephant? Like 1 small bite at a time. So.
Never eaten an elephant.
You've never heard that before?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I would say, Lindsay, just going through this process with you, and feeling the changes. I remember you said something to me. Well, there was a couple of things. One of the things you said was, Melanie, every time you have something stuffed, and you wouldn't necessarily walked into my house before and been like, oh, this is a disaster, but there was a lot of things stuffed in places. And you told me every single thing that you have stuffed behind a door or on a shelf or in a drawer or in a cupboard, it's an unmade decision.
Yeah.
And that really impacted me.
I'm glad.
And so then as we were going through those unmade decisions, I felt like this whole process for me, it gave me more confidence that I could do hard things in other areas, because seriously, some of those unmade decisions were hard.
Yeah, it absolutely, because they're unprocessed like emotions or
Yeah.
unresolved like traumas and emotions. And so it's like, that's why it's important to like address it, like I said, like one small thing at a time. Because I mean, when it goes like off the radar, that's like when you see things like hoarders and stuff like that, right? And then it becomes so overwhelming that it takes over and you can remain stuck. And so I'm glad that made impact for you.
Yeah.
But and that's why it's like awareness is key, right? And I think like, so many people are out there trying different modalities for like healing their body and whatever. And then they come home and don't apply anything to their home. And so it's just, to me, there's a disconnect there. And I think people have to really recognize the importance and value that their home means and what your home represents, because it's not just a structure, it's a reflection of your inner world. And just knowing that too, that holds so much power, right? Because you can set your home up as like basically your own vision board. And
100%.
set yourself up for like future goals. And that's what I've really witnessed in your journey. Cause like you have you've got big goals, and I've just seen you grow, this last year, and we've made the like I can literally look back at our whole journey together and see like those shifts. Right? Like when you're ready, it's like, okay, I came in, we made these shifts, but we also created an environment for you to grow into, right? It's like you want grand. You're here for a mission. And so that's what we want to evoke into your space, what we want to create, because then it's not just about yourself. It's activating your family. It's activating your community. It's activating your city. It's activating your country, and then the world, right? Like that's what we're here for. That's the mission. And so I honor that in you. I just appreciate who you are. I appreciate what you're doing. And yeah, I feel super grateful. And that's also serves my mission as well, right? That's what we're here for.
Yeah, 100%, Lindsay.
Yeah.
One of the other things that I remember you saying in that process was you need to prepare your space for the abundance that's coming into it. And that I remember thinking where I was when we started. And I think that key thing of preparing the space for future abundance.
Yeah.
And just preparing even your mindset for the possibility of future abundance and what that's going to reflect in your space, and how somebody that, is attracting future abundance in that way has their kitchen or their dining room or their whatever. It was a huge impact for me, and I've thought about that statement so many times.
Yeah.
And I feel like just having heard that statement from you, I felt like I was then in a way able to step into a version of myself expecting future abundance and looking for and in turn creating future abundance, right?
Yeah, because your environment's supporting you, right? And Feng Shui is not about perfection. It's basically like your reflection at any given time. It's just a reflection of where you are, right? It's not right or wrong. It's just an indication, awareness. And so it's like, you can ask yourself the question, is my environment feeding me or is it draining me? And I think it's like really important, when talking about preparing your space for abundance, there has to be, I would say, like, in most cases, in my experience, there's this experience of kind of like removal. You have to like clean the vessel to prep it, to invite and be an intentional. And so again, that goes kind of like back to basics. Like when you clean out a drawer or whatever, for example, it's elimination. You have to eliminate first before you can start to add in. And that's another kind of like principle, guideline that I live with. And I've taken that approach even just like on my personal journey of like the elimination process, like what works, what doesn't, just becoming aware and just intentional. It's like, hey, ask yourself, like you have to get real. You have to get honest with yourself, It's like, what's working, what's not working, what do I eliminate? And get extremely intentional what you want to bring in and what you want to create. And so, and the more you remove like the junk, it cleans your vessel. So I actually believe this is kind of my belief around manifestation, is we are all born like pure love, light, clean. And just over time, it's like we take on, these limiting beliefs and these experiences that just kind of dampen our light. And so the more that we can become aware and do that elimination process, it clears us out. So then our light can actually shine. Therefore, it reflects back and we come into alignment with what's truly meant for us, right? And it's the same as the house, because everything's interconnected. Everything is interconnected. So, because it's our birthright. That's our birthright. Abundance is our birthright. And to live in harmony in our internal and external worlds.
Yeah, that's interesting because you and I met through the company that I've been representing for a long time.
Yeah.
And we have cellular activators. And I had always known that with this one particular cellular activator, Pro Tandem, is that in cleaning out the junk and in getting rid of that cellular stress, that you were actually turning people on to be able to hold more of their light.
Absolutely.
And for them to become more of who they're meant to be.
Yeah.
So then you and I connect in that process.
I think that's why we're so drawn to each other.
Yeah. We were so connected and we were like, oh my gosh, like, and yes, of course we want to work. Yes, of course I want to do your Feng Shui. I didn't think it'd be quite, anyways. But I remember like physically some of the things that I was feeling. Do you remember that time that my back was hurting so bad and I was laying on the floor?
Yeah.
And the physical things that were happening in my body as we were doing some of these projects, and even just talking about doing them. I now think back to that day that I was like rolling out my back and just doing different things. But that was a huge, like by the end of that day, I felt a huge monumental shift, not only in my house, but in my body. And but it was when I think back to some of the physical things that I was experiencing.
Yeah.
What do you think comes first? The environment creating the physical or the physical creating the environment?
I've thought about this and I don't think there's a right answer. I think it depends on the person and their path, their experiences. And so it's like, I think it's like this weave that kind of happens. It's like either they're, wherever they are on their journey, it's like they become aware of their internal. And so it's like they make the connection now with the external, or it's like the external starts to shift and then therefore naturally then the internal. And so I would say there's no right answer, but it's important to, I feel, collaborate the two, because that weave of connecting the two is like where the alignment comes in, the harmony comes in. And that's like the almighty power. Because then you're living in that higher vibration, higher state of resonance.
And flow. I just feel like
Yep.
just so much more flow and synergistic opportunities.
Absolutely. Because it's like, well, and I'm so glad you touched on like that experience for you, because it's not all like love and light. Like we have to go through the shit, and
It
and
really
that's
was.
it.
Yeah.
And so, but like, I'm glad you said that, because like, look at you, you're alive, you're living, you're kicking ass. You didn't let it, can I swear? Sorry.
You can do whatever you want.
Okay. You didn't let it take you out, right? Like you allowed yourself to have that experience, and like you had me as a guide, be like, this is a normal experience that you're having. And so we were able to like work through it, give you what you needed, and you came out of that stronger, and everything is more aligned. And look at you, you have a podcast and you're kicking ass, your business is growing, your relationships are blossoming, everything's in flow.
Yeah.
And it's just, I'm not saying that, it's going to continue just to be like, that's just life and the human experience. It's like that ebb and flow. But the more experience and awareness you have around it, it's like you're able to discern and adapt, and then to keep moving forward.
So this feeling that you had at 8.
Yeah.
Tell me about it. Do you feel like it was just you tapping into your inner knowing then? Do you think it was you having to go deep inside of yourself because you talked about the chaos on the outside?
I think it was at that age, it was like it was a coping mechanism for me. Yeah. And so it offered me safety. It offered me safety and comfort. And actually I just love how everything's connected, because yeah, at a subconscious level. And again, at 8 years old, I didn't know this, I was just like doing what kind of just fulfilled me and made me feel safe and what I had kind of control over. But I think it was just like a number of things. It was like, yeah, the coping. And then I don't know if I'm supposed to go there yet, but it did bring me to another topic that we can go into. Okay. Yeah, so it was, I think at 8 years old, that there was a few different things now in hindsight that I can look back on, and it truly showed me like the significance of what I was creating. And I can connect that now with the Feng Shui, because at a subconscious level for human beings, we look for 3 things in our environment. And that's 1, safety, 2, comfort, and 3, beauty. And again, that ties back into nature's laws. And so the safety is the masculine energy, the husband represents the husband. The comfort is the feminine, it's the wife or the woman. And then the 3rd, which is beauty, is the child. And so when you have that present, it creates, again, that harmony and that alignment. And so that's the principle that, again, I take in when working with spaces. And I think just even in my own life, because again, it's like going back to nature's laws, right? It's like the masculine's the protector, and then feminine, the nurture, and the child brings the beauty. And I think when we bring that into the space, it creates the harmony. And I feel like from my own experience, we're in this place of disharmony. There's so much disconnection in our world. And that's why I feel like I'm on the mission that I'm on in the energetic and activation, the same with you, right? Because with the activation, yeah, because overall, like that's the whole purpose. That's the whole purpose is harmony and bringing love and higher vibration and frequency, and working with the energy to bring everything into like wholeness and peace and love.
So tell me who your ideal client is. I know it wasn't me. There's got to be a whole other subset.
Someone who listens, not a pain in my ass. I'm just kidding. Who is my ideal client? So someone who definitely is like self-aware, and someone who is willing, and someone who is honest and isn't afraid to like do the work and see their blind spots, right? And someone that's actively willing to like do the work, that has an open mind and gets into taking action. Because like honestly, like as soon as you start taking action, like the energy starts to move. It's like, and that's just natural life force energy, right? It's like you take that step and the path starts unfolding for you, right? But also, you know, that's where people get stuck also, right? It's like the fear shows up because it's like it's unfamiliar. And so yeah, ideal client for sure is someone that's like ready to invest in themselves, because it's not just, you know, making changes for them. It's like it's making changes in their environment and everyone else that's like kind of in that line, you know, in that connection with that person. So I've primarily been working with, I'd say though, busy women. When I say busy, it's like professional women or stay-at-home moms, which I love because working with homes, I think the women in the natural, again, my perspective, it's like the mother is like the nurturer of the house to make the sacred home, right? The nurturer, the creator. And so I feel like, again, there's been a disconnect in our world. And so it's been a privilege working with these women, because I know that's not just impacting them on a personal level, it's impacting their children, it's impacting their relationships with their husbands or their partners, it's impacting like their overall well-being with themselves, their relationships with others, their relationship with like their work. And so that's primarily like who my ideal client has been and who I've enjoyed working with, because again, I think there's been a really big disconnect in taking women out of the home. But it's like, how do we create a sacred home again? Because it's like, it's the nucleus of the family, and like bringing harmony back into that.
When I think about raising my children, and I was a stay-at-home mom,
Mm-hmm.
and we made that conscious decision.
Yeah, I think that's
my
beautiful.
husband worked away a lot, and
Yeah,
we made that conscious decision to have me stay at home.
yeah,
Mostly because it didn't really work out to stick 3 kids in daycare. But that decision, and that when you talk about those are your ideal clients, I find that often moms, it's the hardest thing for them to do.
yeah.
It's the hardest thing for them to say, you know what? No, I can't do this. I need help.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, because I feel like so many of us, when we're in that space, even when we're not in that space, all my kids are grown and gone now.
Mm-hmm.
And I still felt like I had to give myself a little extra permission
Yeah,
to embark on the journey.
totally. Well, the permission piece, I think for women too, it's like, it's so disheartening. But like, I want to just say, good for you for like staying home and raising your children. First off, like that's a full-time job in itself, right? I feel like there's this like, and it's been my experience too, what I've witnessed, it's like women or mothers, wives, they don't put themselves first, and they'll put themselves last. And it's like perhaps selfish for them, right? But I would say that, you ever hear when you have to put your oxygen mask on first, right? Because like if you are doing life like at 20%, it's like that's what you're like, the kids, everyone outside of you is what they're getting. And so I would say like, you're, as the nucleus of the family, it's like, it's vital for you actually to put yourself first, like you and your husband, like, and again, that's my perspective that's my grounding around it. It's like that dynamic of like the mother, father, it has to start there. Like you guys have to be strong because you're also like what the kids are looking up to, right? And so again, it's like just around awareness, and it's like what's working, what's not working. I can't remember your question now.
No, it wasn't a question. I was just commenting
or
on the fact that I think as moms, we do need to give ourselves extra permission because we
Oh,
are so
absolutely.
conditioned
It
out
is.
of,
That
um,
exactly. That's why I want to go back. Yeah, it's the system, and the conditioning. Exactly. It's the conditioning. It's like we have to do it all. But again, that's like the disconnect and disharmony. And that's a lie that we've been sold in society, because taking women out of the home, it's like, then who's raising your children? So I think, yeah, the system has been designed that way because it's like divide and conquer. So like separate the family, get the mom out of the house, then you're disconnecting yourself, you're disconnecting, you're disconnected with your children, and then disconnected with your spouse. And so that's, then you see the crumble of the family unit, right? And so it's again like it's the system was designed to like keep everyone in low frequency and play it on fear and disconnection to keep us divided and separated. And so what we want to do is like become aware, and raise the vibration. We need to take our power back and, build on like faith. So when I talk about like the masculine, feminine, and child, it's like this diagram. And again, this is my grounding. And what I see, what works, because I've experienced a lot of harmony and disharmony. And in my experience, it's like when things are in flow and alignment, this is the picture that I see. It's like the masculine, feminine, the child, but there's like faith, there's God at the top, right? And it's like this system, and that's like the nature's way, and that's my grounding around it. And so it when you wake up to this conditioning in the system, it's like you take back your power, you raise their vibration. Instead of living in fear and separation, you're living in love, unity. You're building faith, and you're building like connection and community. And those are all things that, again, from my perspective, we've been so disconnected on, and it's been on purpose. And so we're evolving and consciousness is rising. And I think that's why we're having this conversation. But we need to become more aware and change the things that aren't working, right? And this is just one of the ways.
So what would you say, because here we are, we're wrapping up the new year. This is such a perfect conversation for the end of the year.
Yeah.
Here we are wrapping up the new year. We're about to, intentionally start on a new year. People have all kinds of New Year's resolutions and so forth. But if you had to dial it down into what you would say has worked, what you see working for people in their entire, like when you look at the whole big picture, their house, their home, their career, their marriage, their children, everything. If you had to have 3 things that they could do to start impacting their life or their space, what would you say those 3 things are?
Well, first off, I would say you have to get clear on your values. What are your values? And align your goals to your values. And the second I'd say is like, you actually don't you don't have to wait for 2025. Start now. Just take action now. And the third is you're never going to be ready. You're never going to be ready. Well, I'll connect those two together. And the third, it's you have to have honest conversation. You have to get honest with yourself and like ask yourself some like hard questions. Yeah, it's like, what do you want? What do you want to create? Like, are you feeling fulfilled? Are you feeling fulfilled in life? Like, what are your goals, aspirations? Like, people have become so complacent, and that's on purpose again, right? Because that's part of the system. This is what the enemy wants. This is what the enemy wants. The enemy is there to deceive, to distract, to disconnect, to disempower you. And so it makes us therefore like weak. It makes us tired, disconnected. It breaks down our relationships. It keeps us sick, unhealthy. And so it's like we're at a time of like, it's not about like knowing, it's about doing, right? Consciousness is rising. And so it's like, as soon as you make that decision and willing to put in the work, and it's not all, like I said, sunshine and rainbows. There's going to be like discomfort, but it's like, I promise you, and just like for my own journey, as long as you just like keep going and be honest with yourself, the results are there. The results are there. Those are, I guess, like the three. And then in terms of like the house, I always say like start with decluttering, start moving the energy, take out things that don't align, or if they have like a negative energy or connotation, if there's, this couch reminds me of my ex-boyfriend, or like, oh, I hate this thing here. Like that's all subliminal messaging that goes into the subconscious mind. And so it's like it goes unnoticed and unseen, but it creates such an impact, right? Because you're repeating that on a daily basis. And so, start small, start in one room, start decluttering, take 15 minutes a day and go clean out a drawer. And if you're struggling, you can give me a call. I'll be happy to help you. So yeah, start with that. Start decluttering, moving some of that energy. Just the small steps will start breaking it down. And I would also say, pay attention to your front door. Your front entrance is known as the mouth of chi. It's where all nourishment comes in to the house. And so you want to make sure that your entrance, it's clean, it's visible. There's no like blocks or barriers, interference. Just clean it up, make it inviting. Remember the safety, comfort, and beauty component. You can put in, I don't know, like a nice mat or something that just draws the attention in.
So you and I work together in person, but you also work with people online, correct?
Yeah.
So you also have a program that you're doing, correct, for anybody that wants to participate?
Yeah, so I do have my coaching, the Aligned Living Experience. So you can go to lindsaydoyle.com to check that out. That's a 12-week process where I do a in-depth look at an assessment at your house, and we talk about we do an introspective like questionnaire, write down goals, and then I build out a bit of a structure and plan for you to execute. And then I coach you through the process for the 12 weeks. And we'll put that in the show notes, but I also have a gift, the hidden blocks in your home. So you can download that for a free gift. And then you can also book a free one-on-one call with me to just pick my brain, or, to get some extra support. So I believe, we could put that in the show notes after for those that are interested. I
would say, like, for myself, from my experience, like, I feel like this process was so instrumental in so many things. Like, I will give an example. You and I started doing this, and then I found like I was able to do, like I said, other hard things. And then as I started doing other hard things, I just felt like, wow, like, or things that had been holding me back for a long, long, long time. And that I was all of a sudden able to do it. And I feel like, some of these processes that we've done in the house, I don't know whether it was cleaning out my drawers or, moving my furniture or doing this, or just like, having a fresh start, having a husband that could breathe again. That was nice.
Yeah.
But it was, just a pivotal moment. So it was in that moment of saying yes to you and meeting you. I thought I was just doing something for you, honestly. Like, in that moment, I'm like, oh, I'm going to, whatever. I'll do her little Feng Shui thing, and she'll tell me, where to hang a mirror, and we'll be good to go. I didn't realize that I was doing it for me. And that in that process, that I would have to really, really, really decide to do it for me. because I could have easily been talked out of it, And it was in that process of deciding that I was important enough to do it for. And like you say, like, the mom, we always stick ourselves on the back burner, or we often do, and have to justify these things. And I can remember thinking, I don't know if I should do that right now. And I am so incredibly thankful that I did, Lindsay, because honestly, I don't think so many other things would have happened. I wouldn't feel like I do walking into my house. And like my husband feels it, I think, more than me. I'm a little bit, he needs order and absolute, like, he lays his clothes out every morning kind of guy.
Hence why I knew also that you're going to get laid that night.
Yeah.
It's like, that's one of his like love languages, right?
Yeah.
And so that's another thing. You connect. Well, I connect all those pieces. But I just want to speak on for you and your experience. It's like you were ready. There's that subconscious level. It's like you were ready to embark. You're ready to step in. And your pace was your pace. And for me as a guide, it's like to meet you at that pace and basically like hold your hand through that process. But like, I love that how you shared, because I've noticed and like seen the shift in you personally, and then within the family and the relationship with your husband, and then how, how your husband responds and reacts while being at home. And I think it's like, people don't realize the value that all like creates, right? It's and like the nice thing about Feng Shui, it's like it could be subtle, because it's primarily the women that come to me and be like, oh, my husband, I don't know. It's okay, because you start because you're working with the unseen energy, and it's going to affect everybody. And so it's like, how nice is it that you can just go and like make these small shifts, and it create that much of an impact on everyone, all the cohorts in the house, right? With them even like having to do anything, or,
I did all the work. Well, and you, but even like, even the expectation. So I think now, okay, so this is my standard of how I want to participate and show up in the world. Like, I feel like that example has been passed down to my kids. So now they're going to show up a little differently, and just expect a little different energy. Like now they felt what that was like. Like I did it after they all left the house.
Yeah.
Which maybe was a little bit too late.
Well, I think it was when it was meant to be, right? I mean, there's no wrong time, but I think that's
I wish I would have done it when they were little.
Yeah, no, for sure. But, at the same time, it's you're going to be able to provide like so much value. You have already been, I'd say, as even a stay-at-home mom, like you brought them. I know your children. You guys have such a great family and foundation. Your kids have great heads on their shoulders, and like they've got a great future. And the more that you evolve, like think of now your grandchildren, and it's just like it goes down the line. But that's the mission, like that's the big purpose in all of this. That's how you become awake to the system and start to make those shifts and make that impact, right? Because then it just builds in your lineage. Like, how powerful is that? That's the whole point, right? Oh. That's activation. That is activation.
Yeah. And to me, like, I feel like even some of the stuff that I was slogging through in my mind and, my body and different things as we were going through it, like, I really felt like I was hearing voices of ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I really felt like I was, had some of my grandma's patterning, had some of my mom's patterning, had like this whole lineage of people that had, saved stuff for this reason, or not throwing out stuff for this reason, or were emotionally tied to something for this reason. And I felt like I had to like battle through that to even get to a spot where I knew what felt okay for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, for sure. And I think that's like a lot of people avoid the process because it's like you're diving into like emotions and belief systems, and it's like not all of them are yours, right? It's like family ties and past history, but it's such important work. Like it has to be done. It's you either evolve or remain. So like you get to choose. You get the choice. Do you want to stay in this pattern, or do you want to just, pull your big girl panties on and start to like make that difference for you and your family?
Yeah.
At some point it's like, well, and for me it was like sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Which I think is how we met. That was how we met, through the activation products, through somebody that had connected us to each other. Yeah. Yeah.
There is, she knew the connection, which, and yeah, speaking of that too, it's just, people coming into your lives for a reason. But it's like, yeah, we always felt that pull to each other. And we're on a mission. I see us like, walking this mission together, and activating the world.
Well, I think there is not a better line to leave this podcast on a mission together and activating the world.
All right.
I think that's great, Lindsay. Well, thank you for your time.